Thank you for listening to Life Improvement Radio. You are listening to a rebroadcast of a previously recorded show.
But I want to welcome the program author Joe Clifford. Joe, thanks for coming by the studio, the makeshift studios of the Total Education Network, powered by Life Improvement Radio. Joe, how are you?
Good. How you doing?
Fantastic. How are you enjoying the book fair? Can you believe we're already broadcasting live for over 4 hours?
This place is nuts, man. It's like being a celebrity. You walk out. It's the one time where being an author matters. It's crazy over here.
And that's why I did my show, Joe. I want a platform like Author's Corner out there for you guys, because you guys are fantastic.
Usually you're at home, sitting by yourself without pants, and you don't talk to anybody besides your dog for 7 hours. So this is kind of trippy. Well, we appreciate the platform.
And you have to tune into our Author's Corner. It's on all year long on Life Improvement Radio and in all my national syndicated audience. And we love to have a platform like that. And, Eric, that's the thing, man. I told you when we first did it, I really wasn't into the whole author thing because I never had authors on. It was more education-based. And Miami's where Author's Corner started, and now it's become a big thing.
It really has, and it's great talking to all these authors from all over the world.
Absolutely, Joe. So tell us a little about your book, and we're looking forward to talking to you about it.
The book's called Junkie Love. It's based on the 10 years I spent in San Francisco as a down-and-out rock and roller, my addiction, and eventual climb back to the land of the living in the early aughts. That's the thumbnail. Sketch.
So you're basically a rock star yourself, meaning like you're a celebrity yourself, Joe.
Well, if only in my own head. I remember when the really, really bad days. I'd go down to the Cop on 24th Street in San Francisco, and I still thought I was a rock star, and so I'd walk down there with my sunglasses and the shirt half unbuttoned to my navel, and the dealers would all say, "Hey, Vato, here come the rock star, man." Because my guitar was a hock. You don't have anything. You're not playing an instrument because everything you own you sell.
Very interesting, and I'm going to go to Eric on this. Again, I told you about the left coast artists. They're the best authors. They're so awesome. And in so many ways, when we talk about a life of trying to be a star, Eric, and chasing your dream, a lot of times you fall short in certain ways, and we're going to talk about that in Joe's book.
Yeah, definitely. And, we have a radio station here dedicated to just musicians and, and those rockers and stuff. And they all come in, and a lot of them will tell you they've all had bouts with alcohol, with addictions, drugs, and all these things over the years. And that lifestyle really takes a toll on some people.
Would you agree to that, Joe? To the facts of it?
It's part and parcel. That's just, and you get sucked into the mythos of it. You grow up and you listen to the New York Dolls, or you read about Lou Reed or David Bowie and all these heroes of yours, and then if you couple that with the if you're a reader, you got Burroughs and you got Bukowski's, you almost feel as though that's just the path you take. That's what you got to do if you want to be considered something special, and it ends up working the other way. It's those guys are the exception to the rule. Guys like Keith Richards who can keep shooting junk until they're 80. That's not the norm, and usually what happens are more stories like mine where you get stars in your eyes and you fall prey to a lifestyle that you're really not meant for. I met a lot of people like that.
So that I did in the wrestling business, Joe, as I'm about to jump to this, because of musicians and professional wrestlers are alike in so many ways. And basically, that you're thrown into that lifestyle. You never thought an Author's Corner show, the host would be a wrestler, right, Joe? Never thought that would happen ever in your life with some of the literary people you've talked to in the print media and in radio. But basically, we are thrown into a mix that it's out of control. Like you said, there are people that can just keep using, keep drinking, keep doing all these different things and just keep performing, while others are influenced by other people and are forced into it, and it becomes a downward spiral from there, right, Joe?
Well, I can see the artifice of both are very similar. I mean, both you're presenting a persona that may or may not be akin to the real thing or the genuine article who you are. I know when you're playing music and when you're writing, you're definitely putting forth this idea of how you want to be perceived. And there's usually a chasm between those two to try to reconcile them. And I imagine it's the same with any kind of performing arts. There's they often say, like the comedians tend to be really depressed, sad guys, and they vent their real persona or who they want to be through their act. And I think that's the same with any artist, really.
Absolutely, for sure. And it's something that happens. Were you influenced by people to get into this kind of life of hitting rock bottom? Or was it girls, or was it basically?
Well, man, it's always girls. You know that. I mean,
exactly.
It's funny. I went back to my high school reunion, my 25th reunion, which I never thought I'd do in a million years, and there was a girl there who I was just crazy in love with, Tracy, and this was like in the 4th grade. And she was like, "Hey, we're gonna go to a bar afterwards." And the first thing I said to her was, "Will you talk to me then?" Which totally out of the blue, just because I had been carrying this like 25 years of resentment for never getting time alone with her, and here I am, like I'm a 40-year-old married father. But yeah, those first heartbreaks never quite leave you.
So, who influenced you on that end?
You know, I have a chapter that begins, I blame Jack Kerouac, and I think I'd probably go back to that. Kerouac was really my gateway drug to rock and roll, to literature, to that lifestyle, living fast, dying young, leaving a good-looking corpse, better to burn out than fade away sort of thing. And I really got that from Kerouac. I love this idea of being a drifter, and I wanted to be a drifter from my earliest days, hopping freighters and drinking cheap wine out of bags, and for some reason that really spoke to me. Idea of exploring the country on a train, which you don't really do. You do that in the movies, but I bought into it early on, and that's what I set out to do, and that's why I probably ended up where I did. The gutter.
How's the book been received? I mean, has it, since you are sharing a lot of like true feelings and a lot of different things, experiences in your life, have people been receptive and supportive to you? It's
strange. It's based. It's really autobiographical. We released it as a novel for legal reasons and whatnot. The one who comes across the best, the one I obviously love, was my first wife. And she's the one person who won't talk to me after this book came out. Whereas the girlfriend in the story, who I didn't particularly treat very well in terms of the writing, we're still friends. So you never know what somebody's going to take from what you're doing. People react very differently to having their life on the page. There's a quote by Anne Lamott, and she says, if people, regarding your story, you have the right to your story, and if people want to be portrayed better, they should have acted better. That's the gist of it. And when you're a writer, that's what you're doing, is you're minding your personal life, and you're gonna present your version of events, and it's not always going to be in line with somebody else's versions of events. And my first wife just took a great exception to how she was portrayed, which is slightly ironic because she's comes across as the best one in the book, I think.
Interesting.
Maybe she doesn't like to be written about. That's all. I'm thinking of writing a memoir as well, Joe, on my professional wrestling career, and I know a lot of my wrestling friends will not be happy. So you're able to use the same people's names in writing about your...
I changed the names, and there are people in the book whose names I kept, like Gluehead. You can't really have a dealer named Gluehead if it's not named Gluehead. And I had to get permission from Glue, and he signed a waiver, and a few people signed waivers. So a few people really wanted their names the way it was, and they had to sign off on it. And the other people I changed the names. But everybody's pretty recognizable. From that scene in San Francisco, there's just people. If you live that way, you knew who these guys were. So you're not really fooling anybody. It's just a matter of not getting sued.
Great advice. You're giving me advice, Joe. I'm already going to put that in there. I already have talked to publishers that want my memoir, so...
Well, I don't know if it's going to work, man, because, nobody's sued me yet. I'm not sure if a cocktail napkin that says, hey, you can use glue.
Maybe I got to get the right publisher, Joe. Maybe I got to get the right publisher that's going to back me, especially when I have stories about former WWF stars. I have stories about a lot of, it's
the bad thing is if you get sued, man, it's just going to be good. It's like free publicity, right? So it's a win-win. I'd just go for it. Their names.
What do they say? Even bad press is still press.
That's right. Nothing worse than being written, not written about. So
exactly.
Yeah.
Eric, what about with all the musicians that come in your place? Not saying names or anything. Are they characters like Joe is?
I can tell you, Neil, without mentioning specific names, I've had more musicians come in here drunk or high. Reeking like alcohol, reeking like, pot or whatever else. They'll come in with beers in their hands or come in with 6-packs and be like, hey, I know we're going to be on the radio, but do you mind if I have some beer with me? And they'll just be sitting here drinking away while we're interviewing them or while they're playing a set. And it just blows my mind that if they're here doing that with something as serious as a radio interview and an ability for them to play an acoustic set on the radio, what are they doing in their normal everyday life?
Well, most of these people are really cripplingly shy, too. I still play music now. We just put out a record. But playing live these days, not being on drugs, it's a totally different game. you're really self-conscious. You feel awkward. You feel put on the. Whereas before, you could play in front of a bunch of people you didn't really notice because you're so out of your skull.
Yep, I agree, and it's so much easier to grow to such a national scale now. Before to get to that level, you would basically be at a concert or you'd be on a national TV. Now with YouTube or Facebook, or a cell phone, you can stream to millions of people just every day in your home. So I mean, it's I think the game really has changed.
Exactly, the game has changed, and I mean, thinking about this, Joe, how is it that you can play music still and not be high? Is it because you were so used to doing that? How do you keep yourself that process to make sure that you're not drinking, make sure you're not doing drugs, and before you hit rock bottom in your life, to keep yourself away from that? Especially, I see myself in the scene. If I go back to professional wrestling and make another comeback, which I could, I would get caught up in the scene sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I can't play. I couldn't play guitar or sing or do music for it was a good 7-8 years where I didn't touch. It was the same as like you couldn't walk by a bar. You can't. I just couldn't do it. And then when I got back to San Francisco, I put the old band back together, and we started doing a few shows, but mostly recordings. And working in the studio is okay. And plus you get to be 45. Nobody's really doing that stuff at 45. I mean, if you're still doing drugs, I mean, you got to be a big. Yeah, I mean, if you're not a big star and doing that stuff at 45, it's just sad, man. It's like
it's truly they are. Yeah. So were you a pretty big star? Would you say in the music scene?
God, no. Oh no, not at all. I was strictly small time. In fact, we've had more success since I sobered up and started. I mean, rock and roll is like writing. It's like anything. You got to take it seriously and you got to work really hard. My whole deal was I wanted to just do whatever I want to do, however I want to do it, and expect the people to give me money and become famous. It doesn't work like that. I mean, anything you want to do, it's a craft. Rock and roll is a craft. You got to apply your trade and work hard and practice and put in long hours. Anything you want to be good at takes work. And the guys who can just do it off the cuff, they're one in a million. It's like winning the lottery.
Exactly. It is. It truly is, and it's in any profession, any field, Joe, I get to talk to, from NFL players, they were one in a million, to and that doesn't mean they're going to be rich beyond their wildest dreams if they're one in a million. Joe, if you're one in a million of an entrepreneur, you're going to be a billionaire. But when you're a one in a million of an NFL athlete, a musician, and all that, doesn't guarantee success in life or financially. So, Eric,
Neil, we had a question come in the live chat. Not to cut you off there, we had a question from one of the listeners wanting to ask if you did any of your best writing or performances high.
I mean, here's the thing. It's just like, do I think I did? Sure. I mean, I think some of those shows were legendary, man. If we had recordings of those, I'm guessing they're pretty awful. I wrote the draft of Junkie Love. I was about a week and a half sober. I was writing it in a rehab, and I retained a lot of the structure idea, which is this: when you're getting off drugs and you try to recall events, you can't remember anything in order. There's nothing chronological. It's all you're in all these places at once because your synapses are so screwed up. And I kept that nonlinear structure for the later drafts. But the only reason that the novel worked and was able to get published is I applied all the skills I learned in grad school and working hard with professors and accomplished writers and wove something that actually made sense, because that first draft is a complete mess. I mean, it's unreadable. And I think most of the times when you're on drugs, what you're doing is what you think you're doing and what the world is receiving are they're mutually exclusive.
Absolutely, Joe. And would you say now, being an author, you want to keep writing after writing this? Are you interested in exploring other books?
Yeah, no. I just got an offer for my latest novel, and I'm supposed to sign the contract on Monday. Actual print run in advance and all that good stuff. So yeah, I mean, this is my career. This is what I do. It's my job. I treat it like a job. I work every day doing it, and I plan on doing it for a while. Unlike rock and roll, you can be a writer at 80 and not, it seems so sad.
Absolutely, Joe. And what is your hope for the book? Where do you want to see the book? Do you want to help? Do you want it to be? Some people that write about their addiction aren't looking at it as a way to inspire others, so that they don't fall into the same path you fell into. Do you see that as a lesson, trying to teach a lesson in this platform as well, to make sure that you watch out for what you're doing?
I'm a pretty, just in general, I guess I got a bit of a curmudgeon sort of personality. I'm not the most cheerful, optimistic guy, and I don't really look at, the whole, the AA things. Every day's a gift. That's why they call it the present. I'm not that kind of guy. That said, one of the fringe benefits of writing this book is that, yes, you're letting other people know that there's a better life possible, and that wasn't my main goal, because that's just not what I do. But knowing that people can extrapolate that and realize, because whatever you think of addiction or criminals or crackheads or junkies, whatever, it's a terrible way to live. It's an awful, awful way to live, and whatever gets you there, they're there. And then once you're there, it's a bad, bad place. In offering a way out, and I get a lot of people who write me. I have a blog, and a lot of people, Candy and Cigarettes, and a lot of people will write me, and it's often addicts or friends of addicts, and they're asking for advice. And I spend a lot of time, a good chunk of my day, writing to these people and trying. And I'm not a counselor, and I'm not an AA guy. I didn't do any of that stuff. But I spend a lot of my day just talking to addicts or ex-addicts or friends of addicts. And that dialogue is really important, because there are ways out of addiction. That AA is one of them. You can do it without AA. You can do it with rational recovery. It doesn't make a difference, but there are ways out. And writing, education, that's a viable path, and that's the one I took.
Well, I'm glad that you are taking that and helping others in so many ways, and saying, you know what, I don't want them to make the same mistakes, and I'm willing to help you through this process and help you through these issues and problems in different ways. And I'm glad you're still playing music. You still have that passion, and you're clean. That's the key component in this whole story, is that you're clean from what you went through, and people get to really kind of see a snapshot of where Joe was to where Joe is today and where Joe is in the future. And that's my last question, Joe. Where do you see yourself in the future, the next 5 years?
I want to be the best dad possible. I got a son named Holden. I'm sure you can guess where I got the name from. And I want to do a good job being a dad, and I want to be a good writer and a good husband, And just be a good guy, man. I spend a lot of time learning from others. I want to give something back a little bit,
That's fantastic. Paying it forward, doing the best thing for others, and all those things. So, Joe, thanks for coming by. Where can our listeners purchase your book and learn more about you?
Well, Amazon is where most of the sales go through, but it's through Battered Suitcase Press, Junkie Love. My blog is called Candy and Cigarettes. The band is called The Wandering Jews. Everything you can find about me is joeclifford.com. And it's your one-stop shopping center. So there you go.
Well, you're fantastic, Joe. Again, another great West Coast author. And when your next book's out, you're on Author's Corner again. So hopefully it's before the Miami Book Fair, and then we can kind of touch base again, because I enjoyed chatting with you.
All right, me too.
Thanks, Joe.
Wonderful. Have a good
afternoon. All right, take care, Joe. Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Life Improvement Radio. The views expressed by show hosts or their guests are their own and shall not be construed in any way as advice from Life Improvement Radio. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our website. Personal perspectives expressed by the producers, writers, or editors will always be presented as such. Any rebroadcast or retransmission without the expressed written consent of Life Improvement Radio is strictly prohibited. Thanks for listening.